Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tuesday Tips. As always, my name is Michael Barber here on the Grow Schools channel. We're here every Tuesday talking the biggest challenges facing school leaders. And today we're joined again by Rami Michael from CareHawk, the president and CEO of CareHawk. Rami, it's so good to have you back. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back. Thank you.
We had Rami on just a few weeks ago. You can check out that episode on the channel talking the impact of school safety on enrollment. Rami's team at CareHawk provides solutions all around school safety communications and the technology that powers those solutions for schools. And we had a few extra questions for him, so we thought we'd come back and do another 10 to 15 minutes on the impact of how schools can really think about their school safety communications plan, and some additional questions that we got after the conversation. So we'll hop right into those questions. As usual, if this is your first time here on Tuesday Tips, we welcome you in. It's a 10 to 15 minute conversation on the biggest challenges facing school leaders. And we're going to hop right into the questions with Rami and start here. Talk to us about what the most common safety concerns you hear from school communities are.
Oh, yeah, great questions. Common safety concerns typically fall into a few categories. There are the four main ones. There's the natural events, fires, weather-related events, and things of the sort. There's behavioral, bullying, unruly parents, physical threats, student-on-student violence and student-on-teacher violence too. And then there's the medical emergencies. The unfortunate situation is that almost all of these concerns have been occurring at a higher frequency than in the past. There are a lot more animal encounters, for example, nowadays, bears and coyotes, and it's quite a bit more of that. And unfortunately, the violence is becoming more violent as well in schools, with gangs and people circling around the violence with their cell phones trying to tape it and so on. And of course, we hear a lot about the school shootings and the gun-related violence, but that's because of their severity. But the overwhelming majority of the safety concerns are a fair bit less severe.
Yeah, and obviously, as these safety concerns become increasingly more prevalent, the need for systems that help schools handle those situations becomes even more important. But I want to talk specifically about how security solutions, how security solutions can be utilized for both perceived and actual safety needs inside of schools.
Yeah, so we'll talk about safety solutions, and they typically focus on door access and communication as the core pillars of safety. So closed doors play a major role in isolating and insulating students and staff from an incident by creating the physical barriers. So interestingly, a recent study on school shootings, the severe scenarios, they showed that there were no fatalities in classrooms that were locked during these incidents. That's why door access technology is key here. But also on the communication side, being able to easily and effectively communicate and get a response from the right personnel when a hazard is spotted is key to creating a culture of responsiveness. So demonstrating to staff and student that the school is capable of fast response, it gets noticed, and it actually acts as a natural deterrent. And, whether the threats are actual or perceived sometimes doesn't matter, because when a group believes there to be a problem, they can actually manifest one. So that culture of responsiveness and preparedness inherently deters those bad actors from manifesting any of those plans that they may have had. It deters bad behavior all the way from the source.
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting thinking about just door access is obviously school design becomes such an important part of safety inside of schools. And can you talk about how you think about school design in a safety communications plan and how you can leverage the right technology to help not only just augment the school's design, but also ensure that there's those channels of communication that are so important during an emergency?
Yeah, we get asked that question a fair bit, Michael. And we often go back and say school safety is usually a combination of people, processes, and technology. So a natural starting point that we recommend is to assemble a team. We refer to them as the school safety team. to evaluate the various risks and hazards that should be top of mind. These can vary drastically from state to state and even from school to school. But being aware of the risks is the basis of emergency preparedness procedures. Then based on that, the school admin team, along with the school safety team, they'll formulate a confluence of operating procedures on how to address these risks. So staff and students will be trained, there will be drills, retrospectives, and all of these things. And, talking back now about the right technology, the right tech is the one that runs reliably and seamlessly augments human processes to provide simplicity. And that's really needed in those adverse situations. And they don't often last too long. They can have a pronounced impact in just a few short minutes, though. Yeah, so the best systems will provide both the audio and the visual notifications with clear instructions on what to do first and second and so on. Another thing is the right technology will integrate with other technologies to unify some of these procedures together so that you're not running from one lever to another button to a third door to close. You want to be able to automate a lot of these things so that in these very short moments with an easy to use, an intuitive user interface, you're doing a handful of things in a row or together at the same time. And the last thing I would say is nowadays the right technology should be resilient to cybersecurity attacks. Ideally, any technology that is being relied upon for safety should demonstrate that they were tested by a third-party auditor and are resilient to emerging vulnerabilities. It's so important to make sure that the systems that are designed to carry us through an emergency are actually going to be available and ready when we need them.
Yeah, it's such an important point about the integration of safety solutions, right? Is in those moments, I would imagine school leaders are they don't want to have to be pushing multiple buttons, pulling multiple levers to to deal with these solutions. So such an important point there. We talked a little bit about this on our last episode, but I wanted to bring this point back up about the impact of school safety on enrollment. I would imagine that you've had conversations with school leaders about the fact of when school safety solutions are improved, it can be a messaging point for schools that they can leverage to have conversations with interested families or talk about those solutions, on ads or their website. Have you heard or had anecdotal conversations with school leaders about how the impact of putting school safety solutions in has had on their enrollment and the growth of their schools?
Oh, certainly, Michael. We see so many schools across the nation focus on safety and education as equal components of their charter. There was a national study recently, which I mentioned on our last conversation, but briefly speaking, they indicated that 77% of school staff acknowledged that school safety plays a significant role in shaping their job satisfaction and retention. And in terms of student achievement, a study also showed that 84% of the respondents affirmed school safety has a direct impact on student achievement. So when you actually think about it, it kind of all fits. Teacher retention leads to continuity, learning, appeal, overall attractiveness. And it's becoming a lot better known, actually, that safety and education are very intricately intertwined. Both of them together, they make the fertile ground for charter schools' success and growth. You asked me about examples. There are two recent examples that come to mind. One in Florida, there was a high school that installed a state-of-the-art safety system, including the CareHawk communications platform. They also hired a dedicated school resource officer. I know that's not common practice throughout the United States, but in this particular case it was. And what happened was these measures significantly reduced incidents of unauthorized access and violence. And what happened was really quickly, parents naturally felt more confident about their children's safety, and that led to an increase in enrollment. And then there's another example out on the other side of the continent in California. There was a special learning elementary school there that launched a robust anti-bullying program. And that included a mandate for a fast response using the CareHawk communications platform. So what ended up happening was the school reported a sharp decline in those bullying cases, and that was highlighted in community outreach efforts. Families, they appreciated the focus on the emotional well-being of student and staff. So that made the school a preferred choice for new enrollments. Yeah. There's quite a few examples of such, but these safety and education are deeply intertwined.
Yeah, the impact of safety, I think, on retention, enrollment, mental health, physical health, culture inside of a school just has so many big impacts. I want to talk specifically about some of the sort of emerging standards that are happening around safety. There's a few out there, a few that are getting, I think, more, if you will, attention. One of those being the Partner Alliance for Safer Schools, or the PASS standard, and specifically talk to you about how can schools stay compliant with these emerging standards, like those from PASS or other ones that are coming out at the state-by-state or federal level?
Mm-hmm. So let me start by saying school officials are in an unenviable position because the number of distinct hazards and commensurate solutions from so-called solution providers is just ever increasing. Cameras, mobile duress, Alyssa's Law, gun detection. I mean, where do we start? That's often a question that we hear. So PASS, which stands for Partner Alliance for Safer Schools, is a nonprofit organization that's a forefront leader in producing the most comprehensive guideline for school safety for free. It's the organization is 10 years old. We just celebrated 10 years last April. And the guideline can be downloaded from the website with just a few clicks. It offers a non-biased, manufacturer-agnostic roadmap to school safety. And any school official that has a question on the right approach to deploying which technology, cameras, access control, communications, whatever they have questions about, they'll find a detailed answer in that guideline. And whether it's at the district level for public education or all the way down to the classroom, the guideline is fully comprehensive. So you have answers to just about any question about any solution that you would like to deploy inside of those guidelines there. And it's a fairly mature guideline. And I'll say at CareHawk, we're proud to not only be a PASS partner, but we're also an active contributor on the technical committee. And we just completed the final edits of revision 7. That'll be published shortly. And with that comes the most up-to-date guideline on all the technologies and how to deploy these solutions using these technologies to answer all of these questions. What we noticed here at CareHawk is that school safety is core to our mission. It's important to us, and our work with PASS is really our way of taking a leadership position and advancing the entire industry forward. And my recommendation is I urge all school officials to download the guideline and start with the checklist. It's only 1.5 pages long, and the rest will just fall into place and results will be outstanding.
Yeah, and PASS can be accessed, that guide can be accessed at passk12.org, PASS, P-A-S-S, K12, K12.org. Yeah. And we'll drop that into the comments here so anybody can click through and make sure that people have access to an incredible guide. Well, we are right at the 14-minute mark. We've almost hit our time limit, but as always with conversations with you, incredible insights. Rami, thanks again for joining us here on Tuesday Tips.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we appreciate you coming on. We'll say thank you to everyone for joining in and listening on this episode of Tuesday Tips. We'll be back next week with another one right here on the Grow Schools channels. Until then, take care, y'all. Bye-bye.